Welcome everybody to Chasing Labels. I'm Nick Cage, and this is Stephen Billings. I don't want anybody to get too excited. It's not Nick Cage. It is Stephen Billings here for another episode of Chasing Labels. And as always, with me is my awesome co-host Andrew Cabral. How you doing, man?
Doing good. Doing good. Thank you for that lovely intro, Nicolas Cage.
Yeah, everybody, go out and see my movie Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent. Yeah. Let's go.
I know it's appropriate since I think both of us have seen that movie by this point.
It's amazing. So it's amazing, guys.
We are so Nick Caged out that can't just help but filter him through us.
I gotta filter
he
my
binds
love.
us. He connects us.
Yes.
He's everywhere.
He's everywhere. You know, and you keep sending me these interview clips of him like talking about random stuff like
oh yeah, on red carpets promoting this movie.
It's amazing.
Insane.
Amazing.
It's amazing.
Stuff. Yeah.
He's talking about shortbread. He's talking about tree bark.
What was the one he said? He's like, I had a watch that was like grape, like a purple watch that was like I wanted to match it with grape soda or something like that. I don't know what it was.
Amazing.
I was like
amazing.
I was like he was like elating like colors of things with flavors and like I'm like, man, this dude's just amazing.
Yeah, people kept asking me about his outfit. Like, what was the inspiration behind his different suits and things that he was wearing for these like red carpets and stuff at film festivals? And he was just like, he apparently has inspiration
from
left
everywhere.
and right for all kinds of stuff, whether it's shortbread or tree bark. That's what he's going with.
He's just continuing the legend of Nicolas Cage.
Oh,
he knows exactly what he's doing. Like,
yeah, he knows what we want to hear.
Yeah, he knows what we want.
We want to hear all of that.
I want to hear all of it. But yeah,
we got things to talk about today that aren't necessarily Nicolas Cage related, although he's going to pop back up as he normally does.
Yes, he always comes back up in some way. And in this episode, we don't have a guest with us. It's just us, so no. Your guest is us. So
yeah, we are flying solo.
Welcome ourselves. But our first release we're going to talk about is about Nicolas Cage, and that is from a little company we don't hear much about them that often. They release stuff every once in a while, but this one had to be talked about, and that's from a label from the UK called Signal One. And this is a release of the 1993 Nicolas Cage film, also starring Dennis Hopper, and what's his name?
Lara Flynn Boyle.
Well, also with that, film. But that's not who I was thinking of. The guy, the bad guy in the movie. They're all bad guys in a way, but damn it, I'm blanking on his name. And he's the sheriff in the movie, and he was also in fucking Breakdown. He was the bad guy in Breakdown with Kurt Russell.
Oh wow, you're getting a whole '90s flavor here.
I know. But
is it J.T. Walsh?
J.T. Walsh, that's it.
Oh, okay.
J.T. Walsh. He's also in this film, and this film is called Red Rock West, 1993, from Nicolas Cage, directed by. Let me make sure I get the director's name here, if I can find it. I think it's John Dahl. John Dahl, which I think, if I remember correctly, he's done some other good stuff.
Yes, he did the movie Rounders.
Yeah, Rounders
with Matt Damon. He also did The Last Seduction, which is a great 90s neo-noir.
Yeah, I haven't seen that one.
Oh, it's good.
It's good?
It's good. It has a Blu-ray release, but people
this one has a little bit of that noir element to it to an extent. Definitely more neo-noir, but it's basically Nicolas Cage. He's playing his hunky self again. You know how like in the 90s with Nicolas Cage, they tried every opportunity to have his shirt off and like have him doing like exercises, like whether it be like in Con Air where he's like in his
I was just going to mention Con Air with his long hair.
Long hair. Well, in this one he has very nice hair. It's shorter. It looks more appropriate. But like literally the first shot of the movie is Nicolas Cage on the side of a road somewhere in like I think it's in Arizona or something like that, and he's like on the side of the road doing one-arm push-ups, like. Yeah.
Of course he is.
Yeah.
Of course he is.
But he's a man who's looking for a job in this small town, and he goes to get it at the beginning of the movie, and then it doesn't work out. So he goes into the next town over where his friend tells him there might be a job opening. And when he gets there, he gets offered a job to kill somebody. But it's because he's taking on the identity of a hitman, pretending to be this hitman who Dennis Hopper plays in the movie. And so basically him pretending to be the hitman then sends him down a whole kind of like cascading thing, kind of like a Coen Brothers movie, where one thing leads to another, and all these, the characters are all intertwined in some way, and it's good. I really enjoyed it. It doesn't have the humor of a Coen Brothers film, but it really takes itself seriously. But it's a fun movie. I liked it. It's got great characters in it. Nicolas Cage is great. J.T. Walsh is great. Dennis Hopper's having fun. He's getting to play this kind of zany hitman who, is unpredictable, and that's what Dennis Hopper does well is unpredictable. You never know when he's gonna just kill you. So that's great, But Red Rock West, have you seen it? Have you heard of it?
I've never actually heard of it, and I've never seen it until. Well, actually, I've never seen it, but I've never heard of it until right now. What is cool about this release is that it is, I believe, a DVD to Blu-ray upgrade that's never happened before. I think it's the first time it's been on Blu-ray, I assume that Nicolas Cage fans are super excited about it, and people in general are excited about it. I always like to see that. I would like to see these upgrades happen. But I'm definitely interested in checking it out. Out of all the recent Signal 1 releases, this one has my interest the most. We've talked about a few in the past. We talked about The Paper Chase, The Razor's Edge, the Next Stop Greenwich Village.
And I think them are June releases coming up. I think.
Yes, those are the June releases, and this doesn't have a release yet. Doesn't even have a It doesn't even have like a special features list or anything like that. It is a UK release. I'm banking on the fact that this is going to be a Region B locked release because it's a Region B company. So people be aware of that. But yeah, I'm definitely interested in checking it out whenever it comes out.
Yeah, you should be. You should always be interested in Nicolas Cage, Andrew.
Yeah, we should always be. But flipping to the complete other side of the spectrum, let's go to Flickr Alley, which is a company we don't talk about a lot. And this is a company that's been around for many, many years. And they do deep catalog releases of films.
Yeah.
I remember first hearing about them probably 2014 or so. Just because they put out a box set. Well, not really. Yeah, a box set or a collection of Charlie Chaplin films, his mutual comedies, which were a lot of his short films he did in the mid-19 teens, and then very soon after, I think the next year, maybe 2015, they put out the SNA films as well, which he had actually done before he had done his mutual comedies. So there is two big box sets of collections of Charlie Chaplin's work from the 19 teens of when he kind of first started his career, right before he got to the more feature-length stuff he did in the 1920s, and I think starting in 1919. But of course, the more stuff that we know of now, the stuff that we've covered when we talked about Criterion's releases and whatnot. But they've been around for a while, but they're putting out a film called The Silent Enemy from 1930. And luckily, both Steve and I were able to watch this movie. It is streaming currently on Canopy. If you have a library card and your library participates in that streaming service, you can watch it there. You can watch it on Plex. You can do what Steven did and watch a 55-minute version of the movie, which is incomplete, I guess.
Yeah. So yeah, Andrew told me
that story.
Yeah, Andrew told me he watched it also. I was like, oh, that's great. He's like, yeah, because I'd already told him that like the version I watched was like 55 minutes, so I don't know what the hell is going on there. But he found the version that was the full version, and I was like, I had to like ask him questions to know if I was watching the right movie. I was like, did the beginning of the movie have like a Native American, talking right to the screen and explaining what this is? Like, yeah. I was like, okay, thank God, because I was wondering if I'd watched the right movie, but apparently there's like some bastardized cuts of this movie.
I guess so. I don't. Cause where did you watch it? Was it Prime
Amazon.
Video?
It was on Amazon.
Yeah, because it's also available there, but apparently only 55 minutes of it, which makes no sense because the runtime is 82 minutes long. So
there's a half an hour somewhere missing. But also the other thing that was different was that I told him I was pretty sure that I remember there being like a narration throughout the movie, and he's like, yeah, it was only at the beginning. I'm like, what? Like my experience with this movie, there was like explanations of things, almost like a documentary for animals, like where there's like, really? And there he goes off into the thing. And then I'm like, you're telling me there was only it at the beginning. And I'm like, so somebody
all I got was there was a an indigenous person came out in the beginning of the film,
Yeah.
talking about the movie and talking about what the movie's going to be about and whatnot, and then the rest of the film was just it's a
Silent.
silent film.
It's a
It
silent
was
film
just
with music score. Yeah.
we have musical score and then the intertitle cards throughout the film to keep you up to date on what's going on
Maybe
and dialogue and stuff like that.
That's the thing. No intertitle cards. So my version didn't even have intertitle, but it had dialogue. So maybe the intertitles were taken out for like actual somebody's voiceover, and I'm like, so somebody really has a bastardized cut of this movie out there.
Yeah, I don't know what. That's the one thing with Amazon when it comes to a lot of their Prime free stuff, especially their older stuff. Some of the versions they get are like
The
public
worst.
domain, terrible editions, terrible aesthetics
yeah.
and video quality, and obviously in this case, not even the entire narrative.
Not even the
film.
entire movie, and not even close to what is probably the acceptable version of it. Like,
Yeah.
and
Like mine,
and this is
mine
why
was
we say
straight up silent.
physical media is important, because they're going to get
Yes.
it right. You know.
Yeah, and this release here is getting a new restoration of the film completed by Lobster Films. Lobster Films is this company that does a lot of these like deep catalog restorations of films
Yeah.
like this.
They do a
you'll
lot of
see
stuff
them-
with Kino. Yeah.
Yeah, and they've done stuff with Cohen Media, I
Yeah.
believe, as well. But this is part of the Flickr Alley. I think it's called Flickr Fusion line.
Yes.
That they I believe, just came out with recently, and it's supposed to be their more kind of affordable sub label, if you will. They just came out with a film. The Whistle at Eaton Falls was part of this line as well.
Yeah.
This movie just came out in March. Well, that release, and it's a really good film that actually I really want to get
Yeah.
that release of. It's and these are supposed to be, like I said, more affordable, but Flickr Alley, their stuff is typically a little more expensive because it is so exclusive and so unique.
Yeah.
And they've done a wide variety of things, but they've stuck into that classic like 1920s, 30s, 40s range for the most part. One of their bigger releases, at least the ones that I want really a lot, is The Man Who Laughs, which
yeah.
is from 1928. Starring Conrad Veidt, directed by Paul Linney. This has been out for a couple of years, and it's an expensive release depending on where you get it from.
I got the Eureka release of that.
Oh yeah, I was going to say there is a Eureka release of that as well.
Yeah.
But they put out like movies like The Beast Must Die, Too Late for Tears. They put out, like I said, The Man Who Laughs. They have a Georges Méliès Fairy Tales in Color collection, which sounds fascinating to me
Yeah.
beyond belief. They've done, a collection of movies from Poverty Row, which is a lot of like kind of low budget films from, I believe, the 1930s or so. But anywho, Flickr Alley is a really great company that doesn't put out a lot of stuff, but we want to mention this release specifically. And this release, and this film, for those of you who don't know it, it is a bit of a documentary style type movie where you're just kind of, you're seeing this tribe of Indigenous people in a northwest area of Canada. I think like northern Ontario region, if you're a geography fan out there. And it takes place, I want to say, a long time ago.
In
I
a
think
galaxy
it's based
far,
off
far
of a
away?
book,
No.
in a galaxy far, far away. And it's just about this tribe trying to survive the winter, trying to survive the silent enemy, which I believe is hunger.
Yeah.
Because they have to, survive the harsh, harsh winter. For those of you who don't know, Canada, especially northern Canada, when you get closer to the Arctic Circle, the weather is brutal there in the wintertime. And being from northern United States myself, the winters here can be quite brutal, but nothing like they experience there.
Yeah.
But it's a very interesting, unique film. Also, you're not seeing a lot of films positively portraying any type of indigenous tribes or anything like that. Not circa the 1930s,
Yeah.
There's been a very negative history of indigenous peoples in American cinema, specifically Hollywood, where cowboys versus Indians and all that stuff. They're typically depicted as savages and all those things. So this was kind of just a plain look at their culture, essentially. I thought it was really, really good.
Yeah, what
So,
I saw of it, I thought was really interesting, and it made me really want to watch it in a better version because some of the images were fantastic. They get some very like wild shots of like wild buffaloes like in herds and like just
oh
like
yeah, you see them like the hunting tactics
yeah
and
yeah
survival tactics and what they you know, and you see a lot of tribal um, ceremonies
yeah
and things like that. There's a lot going on in this movie narrative wise. There aren't like it's not character or plot based really. You're just
yeah
kind of seeing life being lived moment to moment. But it's really fascinating, and it's a film that I didn't know existed until
yeah. And
2 days ago.
that's what's great. That's what's great. As we always say, it's what's great about a lot of the boutique labels. And sometimes these smaller ones that don't put out as much really focus on getting something that you might never have seen. They got to spend so much time on restoration work. That's why they only put out such small amounts. And in kind of just as a tease, in coinciding with just this concept and also with Flicker Alley, when it comes to indigenous, talking about indigenous people in film, we are going to have a guest on at some point in June, Adam Perron, who is an indigenous person and works for Sundance Institute. And he works in that.
Very fascinating.
Yeah, so we'll have somebody in that realm to talk more about that history and recent films from indigenous people, and what they're doing in film. So that'll be great. And then also, when we have Eddie Muller on, of course, he does work with the Film Noir Foundation, and they're putting out a film from Flicker Alley around that same time in May, where they're putting out the Guilty in High Tide.
Okay.
So I mean, more Flicker Alley stuff to talk about, and of course, film noir is a big deal for us. We love film noir. So, and Eddie Muller's the guy to talk about when it comes to film noir.
Yeah, he's the czar of noir.
Yeah,
he's the man. I want to get his newest book, which he's Dark City. He's put out a new version of his Dark City book recently. I want to get that in time before he comes on.
Yeah.
I have the older paperback version, but I think the new one is a nice hardcover edition. I want to see if I can find a signed copy of that somewhere. Who knows? But before we going off a little off tangent, but I guess we want to get back on track. Moving on from Flicker Alley, we'll move over to another small company that puts out releases sparingly, and that is Film Movement. And they're putting out a movie called Vive l'Amour. And this is a film that I know very little about because I didn't get to watch it in time, and I don't believe Steven has seen it either.
No.
But this is coming out in June, which is really only a month away. And this is a film that I think is important to mention because it is from the same director of Rebels of the Neon God, which is a film we talked about when it was released on Blu-ray through one of the partner labels from Vinegar Syndrome, who of course we're going to talk about a little more later on. And this film is getting a new 2K, already got a 2K restoration, so it's being put on disc from that new 2K restoration. Came out in 1994. It's a film that I actually really want to see now that I'm looking at when it's supposed to come out. I don't believe there's a release date on it or anything like that, but it says it's supposed to come out later this year.
Yeah, I mean, this is the film that he did right after Rebels of the Neon God. So we got his first two films. I mean, I think he did maybe some shorts or some other things, but I've seen Rebels of a Neon God. I think you have too, right? Did you watch it?
I have not seen it yet.
Okay.
I really want to get that Blu-ray though.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Great Blu-ray. The guy, our man Scott Saslow, did design work on that.
He did
on that cover for the partner label. I'm spacing on which partner label it is.
You know what? Since I'm actually on their website, I might as well look it up.
Yeah, go ahead, man. Do it.
I might as well scroll down and take a
Make
gander.
sure we're giving the credit where credit's due. But
where credit is due.
But the that Rebels of a Neon God is amazing. It's a very sublime movie, and you got to really be in the mood for something that's slow moving and staying in the moment. And
I found it.
Okay.
It is put out by Big World Pictures.
Big World Pictures. That's great. Now that you say it, I'm like, how did I not remember?
Yeah, I know. But I do want to read this blurb about this movie here that's on the Blu-ray.com website about it. It says, featuring an intoxicating mix of Antonioni-esque longing and surprising deadpan humor, Vive l'Amour catapulted Sy to the top of the international filmmaking world and earned him the prestigious Golden Lion at the 1994 Venice International Film Festival. So if that doesn't sell you on the movie, I don't really know what is. If you're calling something Antonioni-esque,
wow,
you're understanding the, like you just said, Stephen, the patience that the film has.
Yeah.
Antonioni's films are extremely slowly paced and very patient, but extremely deep when it comes to a lot of emotional themes. I'm actually really excited. I kind of want to get this and Rebels of the Neon God as well.
Yeah, it's worth
get
it.
a little double feature going on there.
I just wish, as a collector, I wish it would have just been Vinegar Syndrome to put it out instead of.
Or
I'm
one
just
of the
kidding.
partner labels.
Just that's what I'm saying. Like partner labels should have put it out so it'll have that nice case, just like Neon God. And
oh yeah,
now it's not going to match up. It's going to be all.
Yeah,
just,
that's the one. Yeah,
I'm
that's
just
the one
kidding.
thing with a lot of independent cinema, especially international independent cinema. Who knows who owns the rights where?
Yeah.
Chances are people just grabbing stuff from everywhere.
Yeah.
But I guess moving on from Vive l'Amour, let's move back to Kino. We haven't talked about Kino since I think Easter.
Yeah.
It's been a while.
I don't know. That's
Been a little
that's
bit.
dangerous to leave them alone that long.
Yeah, it's been about at least 2 weeks.
At least a couple episodes.
2-3
missed.
weeks.
Yeah.
But luckily, we're able to pick up right where we left off.
We can try.
Which is kind of good because I kind of lost track of what the heck was going on with them. So
we can try to
so
keep up
luckily-
with them.
Try to keep up with them, but we'll pick up right where we left off. Literally the next day after Easter, they announced that they're releasing a movie coming soon from a brand new 2K master of a movie called Rio, starring Basil Rathbone and Victor McLaglen. I don't think we talked about this because it came out the next day.
Maybe.
But the movie also has Robert Cummings, and yeah, it's a movie that was directed by John Brom, who I think did the remake of The Lodger.
Yeah,
not the Alfred Hitchcock
Hitchcock
film,
version,
definitely not. But yeah, so there's that. And then we move on from there to a movie called Phobia. Now, this is a film that I don't know if this was announced or if this is one of the movies that it's actually being removed from their
it's
catalog.
not
That's
an
what it was.
announcement. It's something that's already been released.
Yeah, because they had a bunch of films recently, because they had that never-ending sale list of basically buy it while you can. While supplies last.
Yeah.
And I think the reason why they were selling off that stock is because they were losing the rights to those films.
Yeah.
And I think one of the films was Phobia, which is a John Huston film from the 1980s. So if you're a John Huston fan, and you're trying to get all the John Huston stuff, you may want to get that. Also, another one of note is 1492, Conquest of Paradise, which is a Ridley Scott film. Not the best Ridley Scott film. Has Gerard Depardieu as Christopher Columbus. I remember watching this in a history class back in high school or something like that.
Yeah.
And interesting. Not one of his better films that people look back on. But another film is called Terror Out of the Sky, which is coming July 5th. It's also known as The Revenge of the Savage Bees.
Oh yeah.
I don't know how we go Terror Out of the Sky to Revenge of the Savage Bees.
Not subtle at all.
Not really subtle. This is getting a brand new 2K master. It's getting a new audio commentary. It sounds like a movie where you're dealing with bees. There's a bee right on the cover.
Sure. I doubt.
Killer
I don't
bees.
think Jerry Seinfeld's involved in this movie at all.
Oh no, it's not the bee movie. It's not the bee movie. It's not Nicolas Cage in
Oh, the bees.
The Wicker Man.
Oh, the bees. That was my Nicolas Cage impression, by the way.
What an incredible!
It was very
it's
close
another one of
to
those,
my normal voice.
Where bugs are bad.
Yeah, you know what?
Movies.
The thing is look, I'm not going to buy this. I'm just going to be straight up with you. Not going to
Straight
buy
up,
this,
very
but
honest.
I would watch it. Like I want to watch this.
It sounds interesting.
I want to watch. I love all these animal or insect attack movies, animal attack movies.
Yeah.
That's I love that shit. So
I mean, coincidentally, Kino's putting on a movie called Ants, which I'm assuming about.
yeah,
killer
we talked
ants
about
as
that
well.
already. Yeah.
Yeah, we talked about that already. But I'm just
And
saying,
the tarantula
there's a lot
movie.
of those movies.
And the tarantula movie. We talked
Yeah,
about
and
that.
tarantula. It's like spiders, ants, bees.
they're
all
hitting
of these
everything.
things that can come at you. But moving on from there, we have just a list here. Apparently, Kino is putting out 7 Francois Truffaut films at some point this year, just says coming soon. So if you're looking to fill holes in your Francois Truffaut collection or your Francois Truffaut section within your collection, Kino's got you covered because they're putting out 7 of them. I don't know if some of these have been put out on Blu-ray before. I know for a fact one of them has. But I'll get to that when I mention it. So the first up is The Bride Wore Black. The next up is Mississippi Mermaid, and I know this has been released previously from Twilight Time at some point. I think 2015 it came out. So that's been long sold out and is probably out of print, hence why Kino's re-releasing it. After that, you have The Wild Child, The Story of Adele H., and Small Change, The Man Who Loved Women, and lastly, The Green Room. So this covers a lot of Francois Truffaut stuff from 1968 through 1978. So that's a huge, decade worth of his work that's contained here.
Yeah.
Stephen, are you interested in any of these?
Well, Truffaut's a little bit of a blind spot for me. Like we've talked about him recently, and I've seen a few of his films. Of course, like some of the classic stuff, like 400
Blows.
400 Blows, and I've seen Night for Day, and I've seen some of his a few other things, but none of these I'm aware of. I'm looking at some of the details here, and there's definitely some cool stuff. Like Wild Child was shot by Nestor Almendros.
Almendros? Who shot Days of Heaven?
Yeah, Days of Heaven. So that's got to look good. I mean, that's
just looking at some of the cast here, I think a lot of people who are keen on French cinema will notice some names. Specifically, Mississippi Mermaid, which I've seen, has Jean-Paul Belmondo, the late great, and then of course Catherine Deneuve is in the film as well. That's an interesting movie. So Jean-Paul Belmondo in that movie essentially but he's having a correspondence through letters with a woman, and he decides that they're going to get married. So she comes and arrives, but things aren't quite right. Turns out she's a con woman, and she's kind of conning him out of some money. And then let's just say things get complicated from there. And so it's a very interesting back and forth. Their chemistry is very, very good in that film.
Yeah, and that film was shot by Denis Clairvaux, who did Hiroshima. I've seen the movie.
Hiroshima Mon Amour.
Yeah, I've seen that movie. That's in the Criterion Collection.
Yeah, that's from the Criterion Collection. Yeah. A lot of Truffaut's stuff is put out by Criterion. Like we mentioned, 400 Blows, Jules and Jim. There's a whole Antoine Doinel collection that they put on DVD years ago that people have been clamoring for a Blu-ray release of. Antoine Doinel is the character from the 400 Blows.
Yeah.
Basically, it's a series of, I think, 4 films where you see him
grow up.
Like the second film is him as like a teenager, and then another one is when he's like early adulthood, and then so on and so forth. So you get like his whole life in a series of movies, and it would just be interesting to have all of those. On Blu-ray.
It's almost like his,
it's like Boyhood,
his Apu movies.
Yeah, it's like an Apu trilogy, but done in several films.
Yeah.
And you just see kind of the complications of his life and whatnot.
Yeah.
But that would be kind of cool. But these here are very interesting because, like I said, it's a wide, decade-spanning collection of his movies.
Yeah, and now we have to decide: is this going to come in maybe in like 3 different, box sets, or are they going to come in just one box set, or are they going to come out in singles, or are they going to
Yeah, I would love just a box set of 7 movies. I mean, a la their film noir box sets and their actor and actress centric box sets, but chances are these may all get individual releases, so you're going to have to end up paying a lot of money.
Probably.
You figure these releases between $15 and $20 a piece.
Probably.
Times 7. Those at home can do the math on that. Yeah, and I mean, hopefully maybe they'll come with slipcovers. I'm not sure, but I'm thinking a la what they did with a lot of the Vincent Price stuff recently, where they were just all individual releases. Even though you could have just made a Vincent Price box set and it would have been so much so much more affordable.
Yeah,
but I
well,
guess,
it's
not.
it's not how it goes.
Yeah, that's see, they got to make money. But moving on from Francois Truffaut, we're going to a movie called Programmed to Kill, also known as Retaliator. This is a film from 1987, and just by judging by the title, you can guess what this movie's about.
About revenge.
I guess so. It's a film I have not seen, but it looks fascinating. It feels like that like a movie that's supposed to come out in the 1980s.
It's funny because like one of the other actors, Robert Ginty, says he also was in a movies called The Exterminator and Exterminator 2.
Nice.
So he's in movies where people get exterminated and revenged upon, and that's what he does.
Yeah,
and also Paul Walker's in it.
The Paul Walker?
It says that. It says Paul Walker, Fast and the Furious, running scared.
Yes, he is in it. He must have been very young.
Wow.
If this is 1987, I'm just looking at Paul Walker now. He may have been a teenager.
He would definitely have to be a kid in this movie.
Yeah, he's probably like 13, 14 years old.
Wow. That's going to sell. That's going to get everybody to get this now.
I didn't know that he was acting that young because, of course, I'm more familiar with Paul Walker's filmography later on when he was in
I would say the early
Fast and Furious.
Well,
movies.
Fast and the Furious, I'd say even like maybe as early as like, didn't Skulls come out before Fast and the Furious?
I think you're right. I'm
maybe
just looking
slightly,
up.
maybe.
Let's see.
Because that's
he was in.
That's when I first saw him.
Yeah, he was in Varsity Blues. He's in She's All That.
Yeah.
Pleasantville. He's in that from 1998. Meet the Deedles, which I don't think is a movie that I have mentioned in 20 years. Good God. But I'm more familiar with the fact that he did a lot of work in the 90s when I guess he was.
Yeah.
Late.
He really
Much
busted. He
older than
really
I thought.
busted. He busted on the scene with Fast and the Furious. So that's that's where
I'm
that's
just
where
saying,
people
I'm just
know.
saying, like, he was playing teenage roles when he was in his, like late 20s.
Yeah.
Wow. I guess that's kind of how Hollywood
That's
does
how it is.
anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, because in Varsity Blues, which came out in, what did I say, 1998, 1999, he would have already been like 24, 25 years old.
Yeah.
playing someone who's supposed to be 17, 18. But that's the way.
It's about
the way they do it.
getting around child labor laws.
Yeah, I guess so.
That's
I don't
really
know.
what
Well,
it's about.
Yeah. But yeah, so that's The Retaliator, or Programmed to Kill. So moving on from there, let me go back to what we were talking about. There is going to be there's a movie called Steel Justice that stars Martin Cove. Now, you can watch this whole movie on YouTube right now. It also came out in 1987, I believe, as well. This is a limited edition. I don't think I've ever seen them say something being limited before. Coming out on July 12th. Basically, Martin Cove is essentially Rambo. And Rambo/Commando, it's in that same vein, but it's with Martin Cove versus like Sylvester Stallone or Arnold Schwarzenegger. He's like a Vietnam veteran who comes back and someone is after him for some reason, and he's got to get revenge on them and stop them from coming after him and all this kind of stuff. It's a fun 80s action movie. There's nothing much more to say about it.
Is this the backstory from his character in Karate Kid that we're not
Could
aware
be.
of?
I mean, if you've been watching Cobra Kai, it is kind of like that backstory. Now that I think about
Awesome.
it, where he was in Vietnam, and that's where he met like John Kreese, and
Hell yeah.
and that's why he's got such a hard edge, and he just like wants to make kids these hard edged bitter Vietnam veterans.
You're
like
welcome,
he is, I
people.
guess.
We just made the connection, and now you can watch Steel Justice.
Now you can watch Steel Justice. His character's name is John Steele. If you needed to know that.
Great.
He's trying to stop the Vietnamese mafia, and there's a connection to when he was in Vietnam. That's the movie.
It sounds
and he's
fun
just
to
like
me.
a badass with the weapons and stuff.
Sounds fun.
It really is.
Okay.
So moving on from there is a movie called Terror Circus, and this is a film from 1974. I don't know anything about this film. All I know is it's a Code Red release, or Kino Code Red tandem release. Steven, do you know anything about this?
Shoot.
No, okay.
Dude, if you don't know, I don't know. There's a good chance that I'm
Yeah,
not going
well,
to know.
I'm just reading the premise here, and it says three beautiful young women are bound for Las Vegas to become showgirls. It's not long before their car breaks down, stranding them in the middle of the Nevada desert. After spending the night in their car, a man named Andre offers them a lift to his place in tow truck, but the girls quickly learn that there's more to Andre than meets the eye.
Ooh.
So it's one of those types of films, and a 70s people in the wrong place at the wrong time, you know, getting attacked by the bad people, you know, a la, you know, just name a film. Texas Chainsaw Massacre, just from one of them, off the top of my head. There you go. So it's in that same kind of 70s horror type area. And moving on from there is a double feature, actually, completely on the other side of the spectrum. It's a double feature featuring Sammy Davis Jr. and Peter Lawford. One is Salt and Pepper, and the other is called One More Time. And what I actually love about this release is the cover art is done in like caricatures like you would see in newspapers and stuff.
Yeah.
Like political cartoons or something like that. Or something you would get done at a carnival or something.
Yeah.
And
it's
it
chock
just
full
looks
of
so
characters.
cool.
It's one of them ones where it's like the mad world, where it's like chock full of all the characters and it looks great. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a double feature. I don't know if it's on one disc or if it's on two separate discs. I would have to check that out. But they're both getting brand new 2K masters, I believe. Or at least One More Time is getting a brand new 2K master. It doesn't say anything about Salt and Pepper. And you can assume why it's called Salt and Pepper, because it's Sammy Davis Jr. and Peter Lawford. There's no big thing there. What I like about One More Time is the cover. And we talked about the caricature cover of it. It looks insane. I think there may be a drunk donkey in the middle of it. I don't know what's going on in it. It looks hilarious. But if you're into these films, you know, late 60s, early 70s type stuff, I'm interested in it. To be honest, if this pops up at a Kino, one of their very many Kino sales, for a good price, I may get it.
All right.
Yeah.
Cool.
Also, one of the special features for Salt and Pepper is Trailers from Hell with Larry Karaszewski, who is going to be a future guest here on the podcast. So that's an interesting connection directly to us.
Nice. Good catch.
Nice. Yeah, I'm glad I saw that right out of the corner of my eye. Keen eye. But you know what else is coming out, which is another double feature, is They Call Me Mr. Tibbs and The Organization, which are the sequels to In the Heat of the Night. And we mentioned these sequels because I believe they were included with the recent 4K UHD release of In the Heat of the Night from Kino.
Yeah.
At least Call Me Mr. Tibbs was. I'm not sure about The Organization. Probably should look that up, but we're in the middle of the show. But I kind of like that they're including them on Blu-ray separate from that release, because let's say you don't want to get that release for whatever reason, you can still get these sequels on disc as well.
Yeah.
So that's kind of cool, and I haven't seen those sequels. I'm actually really surprised that there were 2 sequels to that film, plus a spin-off television series of In the Heat of the Night.
Yeah.
Which was focused on the what's the character's name? The police officer character that's obviously not Sidney Poitier. The one Rod Steiger's character.
Yeah.
Rod Steiger's character, but it was played by Carol O'Connor on the television series for many, many years. And I think that whole series is on DVD in some way, shape, or form. So that's kind of interesting.
Yeah, and
I looked got a franchise basically.
And I looked it up on the 4K of In the Heat of the Night. There's a Blu-ray included that has these both movies on there. So
I just looked it up myself, and that they're probably just taking that disc
and just separating it, giving its own,
and then just separating it from it.
Yeah.
Even though there are specific special features on there, that's like turning up the heat of the night, which I guess is the making of the movie. Or just movie making in the 60s, which I guess it can be about anything, not necessarily that movie. And then The Slap Heard Around the World, which is
which is the Will
about
Smith
the specific
movie.
scene in the movie, you know,
Just
and
kidding.
the Quincy Jones.
Did you miss my joke?
What's that? Yeah,
You said
I did
slap
not.
her to Wonder Woman. I said, yeah, that's the Will Smith movie.
Oh wow, what a reference!
Damn.
What a recent reference.
I thought we forgot about that
How
already.
How pop culture of you, Stephen. You're
I know.
very-
I was
you're very
around for
with
that.
it.
I heard about that.
You're very, very on topic. So yeah, so there's that. But let's move back to more important things and then recent pop culture. And let's move back to old pop culture, I guess. But actually, let's move on to something way more important than that. We are getting a re-release. I'll say this again. We are getting a re-release of Marty,
Well, it's an
by
upgrade.
Kino.
It's an upgrade.
and it's an upgrade in several ways. I am more excited about this than I think anything we're going to talk about today.
Come on, really?
So
No, I'm just kidding.
years ago, Kino released Marty on Blu-ray, and there was so much hubbub, controversy, discussion, arguments, etc. about it because it was released in an aspect ratio that may have not been the most accurate aspect ratio, and it affected the way in which you watch the movie. But now, not only are we getting a brand new 4K restoration of the film and remaster and all that good stuff, but they are going to be including both aspect ratios. So the aspect ratio on the original release was in 1:3:3:1, which is the regular Academy ratio, but there's been a lot of discussion where the original aspect ratio of the film was in the standard widescreen 1:8:5:1 of the time. You know, it is a movie that came out in 1955. Widescreen was just making its debut, pretty much. So there are parts of the movie that if you watch that Blu-ray where things are going to be not quite, on the screen the way they're supposed to be. There's going to be things cut off because of the aspect ratio issue with that release. But now you don't have to worry about that because it's being you can get it in either way. It's going to include both the 1:8:5:1 version and the 1:3:7:1 version, which is even different than 1:3:3:1, which is a little more narrower. So they're opening up and leave even a little bit more with the 1:3:7:1. What happened a lot with the early widescreen films is they were shot basically where they could be exhibited in both ways. I think of On the Waterfront. If you watch the On the Waterfront Blu-ray from Criterion, you can watch it in a couple of different versions and you'll be fine because it was shot specifically to cover both ways. They did that a lot with a lot of films throughout the ages, I guess. But this one had a lot of people talking about it, and that's why I held off for years buying it because I'm an original aspect ratio fiend, and I have to have the movies in their original aspect ratio, or else I can't watch them.
You don't have any version of this?
I have the Blu-ray.
Okay, I was gonna say, yeah. You
I finally broke down and bought it because I just love the movie so damn much that I'm like, I have to own it in whatever way I possibly can. But now I can get rid of that release and get this one.
yeah.
Because it's getting the aspect ratio issue taken care of, getting a brand new 4K master. There's also a new audio commentary with it as well. So you're getting a special feature that wasn't on the previous one, which I don't think had any special features at all.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah.
And it's getting a slipcover too. So if you're a slipcover person, you're getting the best of everything. I'm excited, Steven. I'm super excited.
can
I wish
tell.
this was a
I can
4 I wish this was a 4K release. That's the only
Yeah.
thing that is missing.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. It's a fantastic movie. We've talked about it multiple times. We talked about it on Cinema Discovery Project. I think we did a whole episode on it.
Yeah. There's still one scene in this movie I go back to over and over again. It's just the movie stars Ernest Borgnine. It's an amazing film. Won Best Picture, Best Actor. It's one of the best I think ever to do that. It's
a oh man.
My phone is going off.
Wow, that we got it. And now coming to the stage.
Yeah, now coming
to the podcast is Axl Rose from
I imagine.
Yeah.
That would be a guest and a half.
I know, right?
So that was my phone going off because I forgot to put it on.
So unprofessional.
I know, so unprofessional.
You probably didn't hear me. I don't know if you guys heard me or not. I don't know if I'll edit it out, but I had to get up for a second to put my cat away because he kept trying to take my mouse away. And that's not like a funny, like there was no...
That is a funny
I'm literally just
connection.
talking about the mouse I'm using on my computer. He was trying to pull the wire out and pulled my mouse off the desk. So I had to
I
put
think
him
he
away.
knew.
Yeah.
I think he knew that it was the mouse.
Yeah, he thought he was being funny.
He did.
Yeah,
but you know what's not funny, Steven?
Love letters?
A melodrama By a melodrama starring Jennifer Jones and Joseph Cotton. Rather serious melodrama, as melodramas are. Love Letters from 1945. Coming soon on Blu-ray, brand new 2K master. I watched this the other night because it's Joseph Cotton, and I'm just a big fan of Joseph Cotton. This movie is, I didn't even know this, but the screenplay was written by Ayn Rand, who, if you've had to do any required reading throughout your school days, you may have run into Ayn Rand a time or two. I'm not personally a big fan of her or her work, but this is an interesting film, like I said, starring Joseph Cotton, Jennifer Jones, and this is a film dealing with amnesia, dealing with, kind of love in interesting circumstances. So Joseph Cotton plays someone who was writing these love letters, I believe, for someone else, to the point where he fell in love with the person that he was writing to, even though it was like someone that I believe his friend was involved with and whatnot. Essentially, but this takes place during World War II. He goes to fight in the war. He gets injured, and he comes and he decides to, I'm going to go meet this person because I've been so infatuated with them.
Yeah.
And he finally gets to them, and turns out that the woman has amnesia because of a certain traumatic situation that happened. I won't get into it because it's a little spoilerish. Needless to say, a murder was involved.
Whoa.
I won't get into the connections why. And then basically he decides to kind of like the slate is clean between the both of them. So they decide to kind of have this relationship romance that goes on. And then, at what point is her memories going to come back of this traumatic situation, and how is that going to affect their lives and whatnot. I really liked the film. I thought it was really solid. I just love seeing Joseph Cotton do his stuff. I really think Jennifer Jones is kind of an underrated actress. I don't know if a lot of people are aware of her and her work. I've seen her crop up a few times or two. Chances are people have seen her as well. She was in like The Towering Inferno. She's in Love is a Many Splendid Thing. She's in Since You Went Away, which is another Joseph Cotton starring film. She's been in a few films. So
Yeah.
I really liked it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I'll have to check that one out.
Yeah, I'd say people check it out, especially if you're fans of those actors and actresses. But moving on to something else now, and we've talked about this right along. This train is not stopping, Stephen, and I don't know when it's going to stop. Film Noir, The Dark Side of Cinema, Volume 10. Volume 10.
Jesus.
Or X, as they say in the Roman numeral
Yeah.
version. So you're getting, we've just talked about, 7, 8, and 9, and now we're moving on to 10. They've got, this is coming sometime this fall, because number 9 is supposed to be coming in September, so this has got to come past that. But you're getting a couple of films here. You're getting Flesh and Fury, The Square Jungle, The World in My Corner, and that's it. Yeah, it's only 3 films.
Yeah, I mean, that's usually the amount they do.
That's usually
now.
it. I was expecting a little more, but no.
No, the first
just 3
volume
films.
is the only one that's got more than that. It's like 5.
Yeah, and then it looks like 2 out of 3 of these films star Tony Curtis, and the last film stars Audie Murphy.
And it's funny because they've done box sets for them people too.
Yeah, they have.
And it's like, so what are they doing? Like, what is their category for deciding whether to put them in actor-centric box sets or put them in one of these noir box sets? I mean, I don't know. It's weird.
Yeah, neither do I. We brought this up many times. For a series that started off relatively slow, like they came out with 1 box set, and then it took them several years to start coming out with a volume 2, volume 3. They're full in invested now.
Yeah.
They're full on. Like, they put out so many of these over the last 2 years or so that they just don't stop. But moving on from there, we have another film here coming in July 19th, from Scorpion releasing and Kino Lorber tandem release of Where the Lilies Bloom. This is getting a brand new 2K
I believe we talked
master.
about this before.
And have we talked about this?
Yeah, I believe we talked.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, this is
But
just an
either way, it is
update on
coming up.
update on the, I think the date, and then maybe features.
Special features.
Yeah.
Which is just a new audio commentary.
Yeah. So yeah,
And that
July
is it.
19th.
Yep. And we've talked about, okay, so something we haven't talked about is Lucky Jordan starring Alan Ladd.
Yes.
And we were both lucky enough to watch these films. I think, did you watch it on YouTube? Because I think that's where I watched it.
That's where I watched it, yeah.
Yeah, that's where I watched it. This is getting a brand new 2K master starring Alan Ladd and Helen Walker. Steven, what'd you think of the movie?
It was pretty solid. I mean, like, you got this, like, I like the idea of it. Like, I like the idea. It's like this gangster who, like, then gets drafted into the war, and he kind of, like, does, like, he kind of, like, puts it off. He's just like, you know what? Fuck the war. Just goes off and does
Essentially.
Basically, he becomes a deserter, and then during the middle of desertion, he kind of uncovers, like, foreign spies and kind of decides to, I guess, do something about it. He has, like, a female companion played by what's her name?
I think Helen Walker.
And they have a good chemistry, really good chemistry.
Yeah, it's one of those films that came out in the middle of the war, and even, like, a lot of the films came out in post-war times as well, about, like, the kind of Nazi infiltration of American society.
Yeah, kind of before the Russian version of that in the 80s.
Yeah, which would come later.
Yeah.
And so basically he uncovers, like, a Nazi, like, spy plot or whatever that's going on here. And, we've seen that with a lot of, like I said, a lot of films of the time. I'm thinking of Hitchcock's Saboteur as a similar film. It doesn't really have the whole gangster angle to it. It's more of, like, the Hitchcock, the wrong man scenario, where it's, like, just the wrong man at the wrong time.
Yeah, and then he has all this stuff where he, like, goes back to his organization, the people he, worked with, and every time he goes back, his, like, secretary's, like, messing around with this other guy, the guy that's running things now, and he's like, she's always trying to, like, pretend like, no, I'm just,
exactly. There's a lot of added stuff to it, but the heart of the plot is the whole him trying to stop this Nazi infiltration. Yeah. And, like, that's the,
that's the main
the bulk
thing,
of the plot. The early part is, like, they try to hire, like, they try to find out ways for him to basically dodge having to be drafted or something.
Yeah.
and it's kind of interesting how that whole, like, subplot is there, but it's not really what the movie's about. But moving on from there, we have a movie called Mississippi Gambler, starring Tyrone Power and Piper Laurie. This is a movie I really wish I got to watch. I just want to watch more Tyrone Power in general. Yeah. And I just couldn't really find it. Yet again, it's another one of those where I'm glad this is coming out in a physical media form so I can get to watch it. And for those of you, Tyrone Power, I think, is an actor many people of classic film, lovers really know. He was in Witness for the Prosecution. He's in Blood and Sand, I believe. He's in The Black Swan, not the movie people are thinking of.
Film.
He's not in the Aronofsky film. He's in the Mark of Zorro.
Well, Nightmare Alley, of course, the original.
Yeah, Nightmare Alley. He's in there. He's in a lot of movies. I believe he worked a lot with 20th Century Fox during his career. I'm pretty sure he was contracted with them, which is why a lot of his films are kind of tough to track down on Blu-ray since the whole Fox Disney acquisition thing. A lot of those old Fox movies that were put on Blu-ray are tough to get these days. But I'm glad this is coming out. Yeah. I'm really, really glad this is coming out.
Awesome.
Yeah, moving on from there is My Man Godfrey. No,
not the one you think.
Not the one you're thinking of. Not the My Man Godfrey came out in 1937, I believe. 1936, the one starring William Powell and Carol Lombard, directed by Gregory LaCava. That has a Blu-ray release from Criterion Collection, and I waited so many years for that to come out.
When I first saw this, I thought maybe this was another 4K steal.
That's what I thought too.
Yeah, and then I saw the actors involved in the date, and I was like, oh no, this is a remake.
No, this is a remake starring June Allison and David Niven in the Carol Lombard and William Powell roles, respectively. And
have you seen this version?
I watched it last night.
Come on, look, the original My Man Godfrey is amazing.
It's amazing.
It's amazing. How does this compare?
It doesn't.
Damn it!
It's good. Like it's not bad, but it follows similar plot to the first film. It's kind of almost a shot for shot, line for line type remake for the most part for a good portion of the early part of the movie, and then the second half of the movie diverges much differently than um the original film.
Well,
And
does David Niven really does he pull
David
off?
Niven's good.
Is he good?
David
Okay.
Niven is really good. I think June Allison is really good in the movie as well. But it comes off with a lot less
Like because
weight.
William Powell's like his how he
Portrayal
acts,
is really
his
good.
portrayal is like so smart assy that I love it. Like
Yeah,
he's got
I
such
mean,
he's got
David
such a
Niven's doing
sass
the
to him
same
in the
thing.
movie.
The difference is June Allison and Carol Lombard. Their characters are similar, but June Allison's character is way more over the top in terms of her privileged type character and whatnot. She rubs me more the wrong way than the Carol Lombard character
Okay.
did.
I need to watch that again. It's been, well the original. I need to
and
watch the original again. It's been a while.
And the film just doesn't quite have that same magic feeling as the original did.
Yeah.
So it's good. I wouldn't necessarily discount it, but it's coming out 20 years after the original. I didn't
Yeah.
think it really needed a remake.
Wow.
I didn't know people were necessarily clamoring for that at the time, but
Yeah,
it's not bad. I'll watch anything with David Niven. I love David Niven, so it's worth a watch for me. I don't know if it's something I'll necessarily buy right away, or maybe ever, just because
Jeez,
I have the original so much.
You started out kind of high on the movie, and now it's like you're like I probably won't buy it.
I probably won't buy it. But moving along, we have a movie called Moment to Moment, starring Gene Seberg, and this is a film that also came out in 1919. No, this movie came out in 1966, and this movie is interesting. I ended up watching this a couple of days ago, and hold on for a second. Yeah, I gotta get the premise for it. A romantic melodrama of an unfaithful wife who thinks she killed her lover. He is only stunned and suffering from amnesia, and is consulting with her psychiatrist husband. Directed by Mervyn LeRoy. Mervyn LeRoy is a great director who directed so many things you're probably not even aware of.
Yeah.
He was one of the directors of The Wizard of Oz. He directed Mr. Roberts, Quo Vadis, which was one of the early biblical epics, I believe. He directed Gypsy 1962 with Natalie Wood. He directed so much other stuff as well. His career is vast. He has 80 directorial credits when it comes to IMDb.
Yeah.
His work went all the way from the late 1920s all the way up to 1968. Just so much stuff here. He directed an adaptation of Little Women. I mean, he directed so much stuff. Johnny Eager is one of my favorite of his films. Johnny Eager is a film noir. I can't wait to discuss this movie with Eddie Muller when he is a guest on here, because I watched this movie like twice in 2 days when I first saw it on TCM. I think it was from through Noir Alley, the show on there, or the segment on there directly from Eddie Muller. But he also directed Waterloo Bridge with Vivian Lee, Random Harvest. I mean, Mervyn LeRoy, look him up, people. He's done a lot of work, and a lot of his stuff has gotten Blu-ray releases. So you can check that out as well. But back to Moment, like I said, it's a melodrama dealing with unfaithfulness, dealing with perhaps some attempted murder, and then some drama as a result of it. Like I said, starring Gene Seberg, who has an interesting life, to say the least. I won't get into all of that because that's a topic for a different time. But she was a French actress, and she was in Breathless. Most notably, she was in the movie Airport. She had a lot of stuff going on in her personal life when it came to the FBI and stuff like that. It was
You're really teasing her life to
very
make it
interesting. I mean, we could get into it, but it's just
No, I'm just saying you're doing a
story.
great job of teasing it so they can look for it
movie,
themselves.
There was a movie done recently called Seberg, where Kristen Stewart played her. It was an indie film from a couple of years
I remember
ago.
that. Yeah.
I heard the movie wasn't that good, but it dealt with a lot of that type of stuff. I think the FBI was like spying on her and like abusing her and all kinds of stuff. But believe that's the case, but there's so much more to that story than to get into here. But moment to moment,
Okay.
if you like melodramas from the '60s, that movie may be for you. It's shot by the same person who did Suspicion, A Streetcar Named Desire, My Fair Lady. I don't know how those three connect, but I just find that interesting. The music was done by Henry Mancini, who did Touch of Evil, The Pink Panther, Arabesque, which is another movie that's been released by Kino. So yeah, I'm interested in that release. That's one of those where like if it's at one of the sales that they have, it may be one I pick up.
Well,
If it's like
there's
in that
literally like
10
sales going on all the time with Kino.
$10 range, yeah. But moving on from there, we have Time Out of Mind, which is a movie I did not get to see.
Yeah, me either.
It's coming out in July. Brand new 2K master, new audio commentary by Kat Ellinger,
Ooh.
film historian Kat Ellinger.
If she's
friend.
involved, that means it's worth watching, guys.
Yeah, you know what it is? It's getting to that point where if I see someone we're familiar with as part of the special features,
It's like
it makes
there's
me
got
want
to
to
be
see the
something.
movie and get it even more.
There's got to be something involved in it.
There's got to be something there.
Yeah.
Because these are people we know and respect their opinion
Yeah.
when it comes to film and stuff
I
like
mean,
that.
it's directed by Robert Jodmak.
Oh yeah, Robert Siodmak, the brilliant director of The Suspect, The Spiral
I've seen the
Staircase.
Spiral Staircase. That's
The
good.
Killers, which has a Criterion release, City of the City, Crisis Cross. Man, they're just gonna list off everything.
Yeah, everything.
They're just
He
gonna
did
list off
all
everything.
these movies. Okay, we get it. He did a lot of movies.
Yeah, it's like we got it. Thank you.
You don't have to sell us anymore. We're good. But yeah, I mean, Cat's involved. We got to watch it.
Yeah, they describe it here as a lush, noir-tinged melodrama set in the 19th century. Set in 19th century New England, of all places, which would be 1800s here. Came out in 1947. I'm curious.
Yeah.
I'm very curious. But moving on to something yet again completely different. Kino's just going all over the place. They're like a pendulum swinging. It's Planet of the Vampires.
Okay, this is more my speed. I got this.
Yeah, I was gonna say, what do you think this movie's about?
This is definitely
it's
something
a Mario Bava film.
I mean, look. I mean, you talk about special features. You got a new audio commentary with Kim Newman. He's a great. He's always
he's
good.
another one who shows up very often.
And they do have a couple trailers from Hell's features on here with Joe Dante and Josh Olson. So yeah, I mean, it's I think this is available to watch somewhere. I just didn't get a chance.
I wouldn't doubt it.
Yeah, but it's Mario Bava. I mean, if you're a Mario Bava fan, you got to at least check this out.
If you're a fan of his work, and you've been collecting his work, I think you kind of don't have a choice to at least check this movie out.
Yeah,
it's coming out in July. Like I said, July 26th. It's a Mario Bava film, and I believe it's been available before.
It sounds familiar.
Actually, it's been available from Kino Lorber back in 2014.
Oh,
so
okay.
I guess this is a re-release from them.
And brand new 2K Master. So yeah, this is a
there you go.
Yeah, re-up.
That's what it is.
It's a re-up.
That is a reissue from them.
All right.
So okay, we're moving on.
Got
from
a couple
there.
more here.
There's
Couple
a lot
more.
of Kino.
Couple more.
Man, this is a long list here. This is a Kino show already.
Yeah, I know, right?
You have Dead Heat on a Merry-Go-Round, starring James Coburn. This is a Columbia Pictures film from 1966.
I mean,
I kind of want to see it just by the title.
Well, I was gonna say, could they not call this movie Dead Heat or just On a Merry-Go-Round? I mean,
or just Heat on a Merry-Go-Round.
Yeah, something that could they have not made this a little more compact of a title? I don't know, but
I guess they couldn't.
I guess not. But I know nothing about this. Can't speak to it, but.
It stars James Coburn.
Yeah.
It says a paroled con man coordinates the robbery of an L.A. airport bank with the arrival of the Soviet premier. Ooh, sounds like a heist film.
Yeah,
Sounds like a heist film.
And it's heist film from the '60s. I mean,
I'll check it out.
Yeah.
I mean, James Coburn, of course, is an actor I think many people are familiar with. He was in The Great Escape, The Magnificent Seven, Cross of Iron. He's been in a lot of films.
Yeah.
So I don't need to go over all of his 173 credits on IMDb. You can do that for yourselves. But, he's always been one of my favorite.
Can we not be like the
actors to show up and
description of the Robert Zosmak films and just name off all of them for him?
Oh yeah,
we could do that.
Yeah, I guess so. Do you want me to do that? 'Cause I
No,
will.
no, I was kidding. Why do you think I
Okay.
was being serious? Like, no.
Oh, I don't know. I didn't get that hint of sarcasm until
Come
right
on,
towards
man. I'm
the
always
end.
being sarcastic. You should just assume.
I just love how one of James Coburn's credits is he did a voice for Captain Planet and the
Oh,
Planeteers.
man. Hell
He
yeah.
was his name was Luton Plunder. He was in 14 episodes. That needs a complete series.
That
release.
I was
Come
going to
on,
say, I
people.
have not watched Captain Planet in years. I need
You
that.
want to hear something interesting? Quickly. Shout Factory put out the season 1 of Captain Planet many, many years ago,
That's it?
and I bought it, and it came in one of those eco-friendly cardboard, packagings because Captain Planet
Thanks.
gotta save the planet,
Yeah.
pollution, gotta take pollution down to zero.
Yeah.
And they never released any part of the rest of the series.
Where is
and
that
it's-
goddamn live action movie that Leonardo DiCaprio promised us when he bought the rights to
I would love that. I would love that. I mean, they're making every animated series known to man into some type of movie. We've gotten everything: G.I. Joe, Transformers, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
The thing is
We've
that
gotten everything.
look, as much as I love that show,
But Captain Planet.
yeah, as a kid, excuse
Yeah.
me, but I feel like a live action version of that show would seem so pandery.
Oh yeah, it would.
It-
Especially in today's day and age where everyone argues about everything
Yeah.
remotely political. Even if it's not political, people will take it and spin it in a political way.
Yeah.
I mean, we're
mean,
talking about saving the environment and stuff like that.
It's one of them things where it's so on the nose that people would probably be put off by it because it's so on the nose. Like it's
Yeah.
it's not
I mean, you
subtle.
have
It's a
to
it's a
do it-
guy that's created to save the environment, and then all the different kids have a power that's involved with like keeping the environment great, like water and fire and like
To be honest, it would have worked better if it was a 90s live action series for like teenagers or kids or
Yeah.
stuff, because we got a lot of wacky, weird conceptual stuff growing up in the 90s.
yeah.
When it came to live
You know,
action series.
It might work better as a show in general, like even now.
Yeah.
Like it might work better as a show than a movie, because a movie, it's like you got to get them with that one thing, and it's like, I think a show is probably the way to go.
Yeah. Even like a limited series type of thing. Like maybe 6 to 8 episodes, something like that.
And it needs to be done on like Discovery Channel.
Do you think so? I mean, Warner Brothers and
Is it
Discovery
Warner
are not
Brothers
one.
owned?
You never know.
I don't know. We'll
Actually,
see.
that would actually be a better idea than what I was thinking.
Yeah.
But moving on from Captain Planet,
All right, which had
just
nothing to do
reliving
with
our
really
childhood,
anything.
one show at a time.
Yeah.
We'll move on from Dead Heat on a Merry-Go-Round, and we'll move into
Our
something
last
a
one.
lot of people
Last one.
to the last one here. A lot of people are probably familiar with this. Ronin is getting a re-release, this time through Kino, a 4K UHD edition with a brand new Dolby Vision HDR master. And for those of you out there are like, hey, I just bought this release by Arrow a few years ago
I was
on
gonna
Blu-ray.
say.
What the heck is going on? Well, this is what Kino does.
This is what they
They're
do, man.
coming for you. They're coming for
Fucking
everyone.
Stabbing you with their 4K discs. They're like, they're
coming
mine
for
now.
Criterion. They're coming for Arrow. They're coming for everybody when it comes to snagging up those releases. So, yes, Ronin did come out through Arrow Video, both, I think, here in the US and in the UK. Don't quote me on that. I have the release on my shelf in 2017. So we're talking 5 years ago. Not a long time. That was a new remaster. I don't know if they're using the same master from back then, or if they're creating a new one now because they're doing it in 4K for Dolby Vision. I don't know. There's not a lot of details on it. All I know is that this is a John Frankenheimer film from 1998, starring Robert De Niro, Jean Reno. It's Stellan Skarsgård is in it. Sean Bean is in it. Jonathan Pryce, Natasha McElhone. Yeah,
You sound like
McElhone?
me, man. You sound like me.
Yeah, that was
Messing
rough.
up.
That was real rough. But this film is awesome. I still think it's underrated.
Yeah.
I still think it has one of the best car chase sequences
Yeah, it does.
I've ever seen filmed. It's textbook on how you edit and how you shoot a car chase sequence.
Yeah.
Because I've seen so many terrible car chase sequences, and I'm just like, does no one watch Ronin? What are we doing?
Yeah, and Frankenheimer is such a
Good director.
he's such a fantastic director, and he delved into so many different different genres and styles of filmmaking. Where he was, by the time he did this film later in his career, He'd done action movies. He'd done psychological movies. He'd done, just
Political
such a
films, political thrillers.
Yeah, he's so varied that he could, by the time he was a super pro at doing almost anything that you could ask him to do, like in this movie, being an action picture, but also kind of like a thriller, something that had its slow moments, and with great actors, dealing with great actors, because, Frankenheimer did with a lot of great actors throughout his career. I mean,
this wasn't his last film, but it was one of his last films.
Yeah, it's like the last few films he made, yeah.
Yeah, he did this, and then he did Reindeer Games, then he did
Which is a classic, right? With
Ambush.
Ben Affleck.
Yeah, Reindeer Games with Ben Affleck. And his last film was, actually, Reindeer Games was his last feature film.
Wow. So forever, his last movie is the movie that's quoted by the little kid in was that movie with Sean William Scott, where the kid's like, if you're white,
you talking about role models?
You're role models. You're white, you're Ben Affleck. Reindeer Games, that's you. You're Reindeer Games.
But he did, after that, he did a short called Ambush. He did another short called Top Commercial James Bond Theme, and then he did a TV movie called Path to War, which is not a feature film, but it's a movie. And then he did a short called The Hire, and then that was officially his last thing that came out, I think, after his passing.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, Ronin, I'm excited for it, but yet again, it's that question: do I need to upgrade right away because I have such a recent Blu-ray release that is pretty damn good? And also, usually the Arrow special features are exclusive to the Arrow releases. So what are the special features going to look like on this release compared to that release? And that may be a sticking point with a lot of us collectors out there.
Yeah.
But this has gone on for way too long. Damn, Kino, you got a lot of stuff.
That's what they do, man. When like I said, if we don't cover them for a couple weeks, this
is what happens.
It's like not shaving. Like you don't get around to the trimming and shaving, your beard can get a little crazy.
It can. But now let's move over to the headline, I guess. Last Sunday, actually, May 1st, Vinegar Syndrome and OCN, they're the people who are responsible for the partner label area of Vinegar Syndrome and whatnot and all that distribution goodness, put out a list of 11 releases through their partner label brands. And there's a bunch of them, Steven. You want to just read them down? And then
I'll run them down.
We'll go at them.
Starting out with Canadian International Pictures, we got Buster Keaton Rides Again, which is also partnered with a film called Helicopter Canada. Then we have from Fun City Editions, we got The Coca-Cola Kid, which is offensive to me, working for Pepsi, of course.
Of course.
Yeah. Then we also have, I think there's 7 films included in this set.
Yes.
Films of Doris Wishman, The Twilight Years, and this is from AGFA plus Something Weird, which I think Something Weird is a brand that's usually associated with Kino. So that's pretty cool. That's interesting. Then we have, from Culture Shock, we have Game of Survival. Then one that we actually talked about a while back ago when it was teased, from Deaf Crocodile, and you'll have to help me with this.
Yes, Ilya Muromets.
Yes, and this was like, I think, announced maybe a couple months ago.
Yeah, we talked about this months ago.
Yeah.
This also does have a different name to it.
Okay. But we'll come back around. Also from Factory 25, we have Inspector Ike. Then from Dark Star, we have King Car. Then from Gunpowder and Sky, we have a more recent film starring Aubrey Plaza, Brie Larson, Allison Brie. We have The Little Hours. Then from Saturn's Core, we have No Resistance. Then from Alternate Innocence, we have a couple. We have Passing Strangers and Forbidden Letters, 2 films from Arthur J. Brenson Jr. And then lastly from Canny, we have Videophobia. So once again, just a interesting
eclectic
group of films, and that's how the partner labels are. They're all different. They're all coming from different facets of film. And giving us something, typically of interest in some way. So I guess let's start at the top. Buster Keaton rides again with Helicopter Canada, which is a Canadian International Pictures release. This has, I think, been the most hyped of the group here. And as you've been mentioning to me, the sales on this thing have been fast.
Yeah, really fast. I've never quite seen, for at least as long as we've been covering these partner labels, I haven't seen something fly off the shelf this fast.
And they're only on pre-order.
Only on these are only available to pre-order. It is currently at 576 copies left, and there's usually only, they don't give us the exact number, but it's over 1,000.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was maybe 1,500, maybe.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
And so they're selling. This is selling very, very quickly. And after having seen the film, I understand why.
Yes.
Because you're getting the crossover of people who are fans of Buster Keaton, people who are fans of, Vinegar Syndrome and the partner labels and all of that stuff. And you're getting fans of people who are classic film fans as well. And I'm pretty sure this movie hasn't been available on Blu-ray ever before.
Yeah.
Maybe not even available in such good quality ever before, because I know you can watch it on YouTube right now. It's only 55 minutes long. You can watch this and the movie that it is the making of, technically, which is only 24 minutes long. So you can watch both of those in less than an hour and a half, and you get the complete picture of what this whole thing is about.
Yeah.
And this film came out in 1965, and it was one of the last things that Buster Keaton ever did was the movie called the Railrodder.
Yes.
Where he's basically doing a cross Canadian country trip on this rail car, and it's just him in this rail car, and it's 24 minutes long, and it's a silent film made in 1965, and no one was really making silent films in 1965. I can tell you that, and it's just fascinating because you get to see one of the best ever do it for
you get to see his process.
Times.
Yeah,
you see, and that's just the movie itself. But then you get to see this 55-minute documentary, which is not only about the making of that movie, but it's about Buster Keaton and his life and his work, and you get to see him talk about all kinds of stuff.
Yeah. So
it's like a historical document of the legendary Buster Keaton in video form.
It's almost like when they try to make biopic films today. It's like almost using the template for this movie, but in one point in like a cinematic way. Like they're showing you him making a movie or late in his career, and then going back and showing you his career, which is what biopic movies do.
Right?
They like to start at near the end of somebody's like path, and then go back and tell the beginning story and leading up to that moment.
Yeah, it's not an in-depth documentary or anything like that. There's probably much better, much more informative documentaries about the life and career of Buster Keaton. It's more of a simplification, a brief overlook, and kind of like a more truncated testament of Buster Keaton. But the value of it is the fact that it was done while he's still alive, so you get footage of him while he was still living, and you just learn a lot, and you just get to, it's really nice to see, actual footage of the people that you've heard about, talked about, you've heard mentioned of before, but, oftentimes, you don't get to see a lot of actual footage from. That's why a lot of stuff that's surfacing now, whether it's through YouTube or special features on Blu-rays, you get original interviews on TV shows or talk shows or radio shows with a lot of people, and you get to hear them in their own words say things. It's going to that primary source, and it's not just someone talking about what someone said, which is fun. Hearing stories about people that you know of is fun, but getting it directly from the source is something unique. I can understand why this is selling so fast.
Yeah, and
because Buster Keaton is an icon. He's one of the most legendary stars of the silent age. And what is also interesting is you get a sense of the fact that after that silent era, his whole career and life kind of disappeared from the limelight.
Yeah, I mean, that happened for a lot of them guys. Even Charlie Chaplin had a hard time, crossing over.
That was a lot of political stuff.
Yeah, sure.
But he was able to make a transition into talkies, into more cinematic stuff.
Funny
later
enough,
on.
one of
But
them
of
was
course,
called. Funny enough, one of them was called Limelight, right?
yes, that's very true. One of his later films was called Limelight, available through Criterion
Yeah,
on Blu-ray, uh, and but not so much for Buster Keaton.
yeah,
It's very interesting what the role he played in the history of cinema, being so iconic early on and then relatively disappearing. But he kept working though. If you look at his IMDb credits, he kept working any chance he could, especially towards the end. While this movie came out in 1965, and he passed away in 1966. This wasn't the last thing he did, The Railrodder. It was
yeah,
There was other stuff that he did before he passed away. So this was very close near the end of his life. It's just an interesting historical document.
yeah.
And that's why I think a lot of people are buying it very, very quickly.
And
But
and then I'm not
yeah,
sure about now looking into the special features here. There are, it looks to be, a lot of short films, including The Railrodder is involved. But
yeah. So
I don't know if these
yes,
other short films are these other short films of Buster Keaton,
I'm gonna check, but I believe they are.
because one of them's 1983. So unless
Oh,
it
maybe
was
not then.
released later, like one of them things where it got released later, they found it and had to clean it up and release it late. There's one from 1970. There's one from like, so
I'm actually very curious what those are. Then let me see.
they could
So
just
the Railrodders definitely on there.
yeah.
Um, let's see. They have The Ride, The Railrodder, The Quiet Racket, which is all. I think those are all Buster Keaton films.
Okay.
Um, I'll look it up. I would hope those are.
Because it says in all there's 10 films on this disc, or these
Oh,
discs.
really?
It says yeah, English subtitles for all 10 films. So there's the 2 movies, the 2 features, and then the all these short films. So yeah, I mean it's a pretty sizable.
It's a pretty deluxe package.
Yeah, great artwork as well. I love the great blue background, the sky, and him being in black and white. Looks great.
Yeah, I think with all the partner labels, we're all getting really great cover art.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's we don't have to toot that horn. We know every time there is usually never a great not great Vinegar Syndrome partner
Oh
label.
no, never.
No matter if the movie's good or not. Usually the artwork's great, but so moving on.
Yeah, I can't find. Yeah, I'm trying to look at his IMDb and then compare it to what the special features are, but I can't correlate it right now.
Yeah.
But just know that it's quite a deluxe packaging.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Well, moving on to Fun City Editions.
Yes.
We have the Coca-Cola Kid, and I think we both watched this one and both enjoyed it.
Yeah, starring a young Eric Roberts.
Yeah, he's really, Eric Roberts has always played some all different types of characters, but in this one, seeing him this young and this vibrant and, with this almost Nicolas Cage level of enthusiasm, I loved watching him in this movie.
Question: am I the only one who thinks that Matthew McConaughey saw this film when he was a young actor and was like, I'm going to act like this in every single movie for the rest of my career?
Maybe.
Because if you watch this role, close your eyes while watching this movie, you'll think you're hearing Matthew McConaughey.
Yeah, because he's from Atlanta, right?
Yeah, because the character's from Georgia. I mean, McConaughey's from Texas, so he always has that Texas, accent to him. But it sounds so similar.
Yeah,
so incredibly similar. But the premise of the movie is that he works for Eric Roberts' character works for the Coca-Cola company, and he's going to Australia to kind of like help them sell Coca-Cola.
essentially to beef up the business in Australia. And so he's there to assess if there's any like blind spots they're missing when it comes to sales in the region. And so he finds this particular area where it doesn't seem like any Coca-Cola is being sold. And he's like, something's got to be there. We got it, So they go and come to find out a local soda maker is making his own soda that is keeping Coca-Cola out of the area. And that's where he like comes in and tries to worm his way in and put his influence on him, on the maker of that soda. So it's got an interest, it's got some comedy in there, but it's also got this kind of moral dilemma story of a man who's messing with something that's happening local. He's trying to, the big companies trying to take over the small companies, kind of thing. And that's something we see in a lot of films. But I just I love the vibe of this movie, and I like also co-starring in the movie Greta Scacchi, I think is her name. She plays this like secretary, and she's great. She's funny. She's beautiful.
And she has an interesting tie to the plot that is pretty obvious throughout and then they reveal it, and it's it's pretty obvious. I was just looking up. I mean, just to go back to, I don't want to go back to the Buster Keaton stuff, but it looks like those are just short films. I don't think they're necessarily tied to Buster Keaton in any way, but I could be wrong. So because I looked up the ride, couldn't find it. The Quiet Racket, I couldn't really find. The Quiet Racket is just another short film. So those are all just short films. I don't necessarily think they're tied to Buster Keaton, but I just wanted to make that clear because I made a mistake thinking that they were, but I don't believe they are. But as you're saying, the Coca-Cola kid, with that actress. What I also want to mention, Steven? Right at the beginning of the movie, they say that this movie has absolutely no connection with the actual Coca-Cola company at all. They got no permission. They got no endorsement from them. They got nothing. And Coca-Cola's product is splattered all over this movie. And I'm like, how did they get the rights to do this at the time?
I don't know,
Were copyright laws not as strict as they are now?
I don't know. Yeah, it's like, is it that they filmed in another country? Is it that, like, what gave them the right to do all this? But then, I don't know, man. Maybe Coca-Cola figured that maybe it's good advertisement for them, and then they just, after the fact,
it's not exactly a positive.
Well, that's what I'm
movie
saying.
For Coca-Cola, it's not depicting them as necessarily the good guys.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like maybe they gave them permission, and then afterwards, when the movie was done, they were like, okay, shit, like what is this? So maybe they didn't like how the movie portrayed Coca-Cola in the movie, so they after the fact were just like, well, we're putting a disclaimer at the beginning. You have to put a disclaimer at the beginning. So
and the movie, the tone of the movie is interesting to me. It feels like a satire. It feels like a drama. It feels like a Coen Brothers comedy sometimes, in the sense of its over the topness.
Yeah,
like especially the guy who's running the other major soda company in Australia, the one that he's trying to take over or trying to buy out, if you will. He feels like a character straight out of a Coen Brothers movie in his over-the-top antics, especially when it comes to like selling his version of soda and whatnot. It's such an interesting, tonally wild film, and the film itself is not even necessarily plot-driven.
No.
Like, we're mentioning plot points, but it's not even plot-driven. You're just kind of like seeing just stuff that this guy's going through while he's in Australia.
Yeah. Like
and oftentimes it's weird, zany, out of the box type stuff, like out of nowhere type stuff. Like the secretary's like ex-husband will just show up randomly to the office and get a fight with him for no reason.
Yeah, so like Eric Roberts has to like
random.
tackle him to the ground and like hold him down. Yeah. And then there's this whole scene where like Eric Roberts is like outside his hotel room near the pool, and he's doing like Tai Chi shit and
and there's no real connection to the plot with that. Like there's no.
I think it's just to show that he's like a young, self-absorbed guy.
Yeah, I mean, he's supposed to be this hotshot young, like guru when it comes to being able to sell the Coca-Cola brand to people and whatnot. That's why they send him out to do this type of work. But it's an interesting movie. Like I said, young Eric Roberts, and Eric Roberts is an actor that people have probably seen before. I mean,
he's kind of a culty.
I mean, he was in the movie. He's probably people probably recognize him for the most is he's in The Dark Knight.
Sure,
he's Maroni in The Dark Knight. He shows up a few times. There's the one scene where Batman goes into the nightclub to get him and like drops him off of that
Breaks
building
his
or whatever, and
knees.
he's like, yeah, I won't die from this height. He's like, no.
That's the point.
Just breaks his legs.
Yeah.
He's also like the bad guy in the Expendables, I think, the first
Yes.
Expendables movie. But yeah, he's been around for
He's been around
very
for a
long
while,
time.
yeah.
I believe, yeah, he's Julia Roberts' brother.
Yeah. He was in
Older brother, I
seasons of Smallville. He was at.
Oh, gee.
Yeah,
What
he
a-
was.
what a
I know
reference.
that's deep cut. I know, right?
A deep cut.
Yeah, he was.
Somebody
he was
save me,
one of the
Steven.
bad guys in that. I'm blanking on the villain he plays, but.
Oh goodness.
Yeah, but it's I mean he's a culty actor. But
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Julia Roberts people remember more when it comes to that family of acting.
and then there's Emma Roberts.
Even Emma Roberts. People probably remember now more.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's still working. He's got tons of movies coming out. Holy.
Yeah, he's
Holy
a
heck. Just go
working
to his
guy,
IMDb,
man.
people.
He's just like I said. He's kind of stays on the
He's a working actor.
indie
Yeah,
circuit.
he's a working
and-
actor.
Yeah, but one feature I wanted to bring up real quick is there is an audio commentary with Lars Nielsen and our man who was on a few episodes ago, Jonathan Hertzberg, is
Oh, yes.
on the
I
commentary.
did see that. Nice.
Yeah, so you get that
Very cool.
Hertzberg commentary in there, so that's cool.
Yeah, there's a booklet in there. Very cool.
Awesome.
Moving on from there are many of these releases
Okay,
to go
well,
over.
I know we both watched a couple of these Doris Wishman films.
Yeah, the films of Doris Wishman. This is an interesting box set.
Yeah.
I think 3 out of 7 of these films you can find streaming currently on the Criterion Channel streaming service. Whether that's the case, if you're listening to this in a year from now, probably not. The way streaming seems to go, things get moved on and off platforms every month. So who knows? But we did get to see, both of us got to see Deadly Weapons and Double Agent 73, which is on the first disc of this, what's it, a 3-disc set? Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
It is a 3-disc set. The last disc has 3 films on it. It's a lot of compression there, but who knows? So Deadly Weapons and Double Agent. Steven, how would you describe these films? I want to say sexploitation, 70s sexploitation type films.
Definitely. Yeah.
That seems to be my gist of them.
Just think Charlie's Angels, but where their boobs are always out.
Oh, I was thinking of something similar to that, but something like especially Double Agent 73 feels like it's Get Smart.
Yeah, Get Smart. Yeah.
Sexploitation.
Yeah.
And Deadly Weapons. Oh no, I've seen Deadly Weapons. You haven't.
Yeah.
So Deadly Weapons. Basically, this woman is trying to get revenge on people that killed. I believe it was her boyfriend or fiance, something like that. And she hears them over the phone commit this murder, and she also hears where they're going. One is going to Vegas, one is going to Miami, and she decides she's going to. And she knows that the one going to Vegas likes to go to the burlesque clubs. So she's gonna be like, I'm gonna go and I'm going to become a burlesque dancer because he's gonna eventually show up, and once he shows up, I'm gonna kill him.
Yeah.
And that's what she does. And the actress who's in these 2 films is Steven. This is her name, so don't criticize me out there, world. Her name is Chesty Morgan. That's not her real name.
That's a normal name.
That is her stage name, if you will. If you do a little research on her, on her real life and whatnot, she was a Polish immigrant from Poland. She had a very harsh life. I believe she was an orphan. Her parents were killed, I think, in the invasion of Poland by the Nazis in 1939. So she became an orphan during that time, which is a very harsh, life to start out with. And she became, I believe, a dancer of some kind. But the whole selling point of her character and all of that is that she's very well endowed, Stephen.
Yes, you
in
could
the
say
chest
that.
area.
Yes.
And she uses them to her advantage as the character. And specifically in Deadly Weapons, she uses them to lure these men, and then she suffocates them with them. That's how she gets her revenge.
Yeah.
And in Double Agent 73, she has a camera implanted in them.
Yes.
And then she uses them to, once again, lure
So-
these men and to murder them and then take pictures of them.
Yeah,
as evidence.
Yeah, so we get many scenes of her lifting her
Yeah.
breast up and taking pictures,
yes.
and it's just a click, and it's just a click camera sound. There's no there's no real technology
No,
involved.
the screen flashes to kind of indicate flashing camera.
The scene of she gets surgery. Like, the funny thing is the transition, because like we go from like her being told she has to go on this mission, and the next thing we know, she wakes up after a surgery of getting a camera implanted in her boob, and then from there, the nurse that's helping her is involved. So then she has to get her.
What I really liked about Agent 73 is how inventive and how playful the movie was when it came to the different scenarios.
Yeah.
Where like she couldn't trust anybody because anybody could be a spy or a bad guy, and she's trying to find this one specific individual who's part of this organization who's like peddling drugs and whatnot, and she's part of this government, like I said, like a Get Smart type situation, this government agency who's got to stop these bad guys. Whereas opposed to Deadly Weapons, where she's just an individual woman bent on revenge, and it's a lot simpler plot. This one, Agent 73 felt more inventive.
Yeah.
These films are super low budget 70s pictures, playing on the sexuality of this woman. But what I like about them so much is it is unapologetic, and it is exactly what you think it's going to be.
Yeah.
They're going to maximize the sexuality of it. They're going to play into the raunchiness of it. It's so low budget to the point where there's so much ADR used for people who aren't actually talking, and it's really funny if you think about that. And it's a lot of fun. It's like, to be honest, it's like watching John Waters films.
Yeah.
I always have to bring up John Waters every single episode, but it feels like it's in that vein of sexploitation, trashy 1970s films. At least for these two films, I haven't seen the other 5 films that are in this set. I believe she's not in any of those films, so they're not playing on this aspect of it. I'm interested in this set.
Yeah.
Because it is 7 films. That's a significant set.
And the other thing to think about too that's interesting here is that though the films have sexploitation, the director is a female.
Yeah, like it's a very it's super feminist.
Yeah.
When it comes to what this actor or character is doing in relation to these men, using her sexuality as a weapon and weaponizing it. It's very fascinating. And I do want to bring that up, Stephen. It's 1970s. It's a woman director, which you don't see a lot of at the time, especially during that era. And it's a whole collection of her work, which we don't really get to see either.
Well, I don't think it's everything.
No, it's a large collection.
It's 7 films. She did do a lot of. I think a lot of these are some of her later films. She did live to be 90 into 2002. So,
oh wow,
she lived for a while. But some of these are some of her later films.
Doris Wishman. She did films throughout. Like I'm just looking at her IMDb.
Yeah, through the 60s.
Yeah, 60s, 70s. Just one
even
film.
Even in an 80s film, in a 90s film, and then some into the 2000s.
Yeah, into the 2000s.
Yeah.
I mean,
even some stuff. I mean, like one movie came out after she died.
Yeah, one film came after posthumously. Yeah, posthumously.
That's it.
In 2007. Cool, very cool set. Very apropos for AGFA to put this out, and something weird. Really cool genre type set.
Yeah.
I'm really glad they're putting it out. But moving on from there, Game of Survival. Oh, Stephen, I watched this movie on YouTube.
Yeah.
It's available on YouTube in a terrible VHS rip form. So obviously this must be a heck of a lot better.
Yeah.
It's so basically
sounds like you like it.
Oh, it's not good. So these 7 criminals are these prisoners. They're like these space prisoners, I guess, but they all look human, obviously. The movie must have been shot on super low.
Yeah, it's
low budget,
lo-fi video. Yeah,
lo-fi. We're talking 8mm, 16mm. I don't know. It's not great. But so basically, they come down to Earth and to have this kind of like battle royale, if you will. And they're sent to hunt for this ball, but they have to kill each other to hunt it down. And and it's all presided over these all powerful like lizard type creatures. It's a game of survival, and of course one of the guys ends up getting involved with some woman. He's like the main dude you see on the cover here, holding the ball with the leather jacket,
Yeah.
facing us. He's kind of like the main guy we're trying to root for. So it's like a Hunger Games battle royale with space prisoners on Earth.
And see, like usual, you make it sound so fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds cool on paper, but then
Yeah.
you watch it and you're like, oh man, it's not great. But it's 80s schlock trash, action trash, but people may love it.
It's
Again, it's in Culture Shock's wheelhouse. You know,
Yeah,
it's
definitely.
very much so. I remember hearing about this movie potentially coming out months ago, so I'm glad it's
Okay.
finally coming out, I guess. But moving on to a movie we already talked about, Ilya Muromets, or it's called The Sword and the Dragon, I think is the other title to it.
Yes.
This movie has a very interesting history, like we've talked about. It's been edited in different ways to make it less of what it's supposed to be originally. It's supposed to be this epic Russian folklore fantasy type thing, and it's been kind of edited down to kind of a more jokey-ish type thing. Like I said when we first talked about it, Mystery Science Theater 3000's done an episode on it, but it turns out that the original, intention of the movie and the original version of the movie, which I think we're getting here, is actually a very, epic, sweeping type of fantasy type film from, I believe, 1956.
Yeah.
Yes. And apparently I've heard that this looks incredible. The restoration on this looks incredible. There is a trailer for it on YouTube, but it's also attached to the Vinegar Syndrome page for it on their website, and it looks stunning. Like it looks way better than when I watched it in any version. So I'm very curious about this release.
Them
I
Russians,
love the cover.
I tell you one thing, them Russians knew how to film some shit. Like they,
Yeah. And it's from an era of Russian cinema which is very interesting. We're talking 1950s. We're talking, right in the middle, in the heart of the Soviet Union type era of communist Russia and all that type of stuff. Where I don't know if they're necessarily glorifying their past and whatnot. So it's a whole historical type of situation. But yeah, I'm very curious about how it's going to aesthetically look.
Yeah.
But moving on from there, The Little Hours, Stephen, put out by Gunpowder and Sky. Do you remember when this movie came out in 2017? Because I know I
Yes.
did. 'Cause people were talking about it, and I finally got to watch it. And I think you watched it too.
Yes, yeah, I did. Yeah,
And
it's
what did you think?
It's very it's okay.
Did you laugh? Was it funny?
There
It's
were
supposed to be a
parts I
comedy.
laughed. I'm a fan of Aubrey Plaza and Allison Brie and of course John C. Reilly's in there too. I think it tries a little hard to be funny, maybe a little too often. Like it feels like this movie could have used a little bit more of a softer touch when it came to its comedy. I don't know. I would say on a first viewing, it didn't necessarily make me laugh a lot. But there were moments.
Right. Yeah, I feel that too. I also felt that the whole controversy behind it, I think, was all kind of
Yeah.
way overblown and nonsensical.
We were
I mean,
we were saying that before, and it was like these people must not have seen anything,
and remotely controversial. I was watching it, I'm like, this is rather tame compared to the outrage that the film got when it came out. I think at one of the film festivals, whether it was Sundance or South by Southwest or whatever that was when it came out. The whole, of course, Christians, Catholics, the religious right, all that kind of stuff. Anytime anything gets remotely made fun of when it comes to that, to their religion, they're up in arms about it. They completely can't see a lot of the farcity and a lot of the negative things that exist within organized religion. A lot of people can't. And the film, of course, tries to play that to the extreme. Like you said, a little bit too over the top, a little trying too hard with a lot of the jokes. I thought John C. Reilly was hilarious in the movie.
Yeah,
I think he's just an incredible
He's a
actor.
great actor, yeah.
In and of itself, when it comes to comedy or even drama, I think he's super underrated.
There are some, like I said, some part, like near the beginning when they like just chastise that like random village, worker for no reason. Like, why are you looking at me? Just like, they all just throw stones at him and just yell at him for no reason. I'm just like,
yeah, and John C. Reilly plays like the drunk priest, and he's really, really hilarious the way he depicts it and whatnot, and just
But it kind of gives you a little bit of that, like, some of that nunsploitation stuff where, like, the nuns are, like, wanting to be more, like, you know, sexual and regular people, and, like, it kind of plays, it's almost like a comedy version of that, you know, like
It's like a lighter, it's like a lighter version of like nunsploitation.
with
Like a more mainstreamy type
with more
version.
comedy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like those. Yeah, like I mean, the nunsploitation box set from Severin.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of that right away. Obviously, those films are much, you know, they're much more risque, much more harsher when it comes to things that they're depicting and whatnot. They're going for it. They're seriously going for it. This obviously is played for comedy, played for silliness,
Yeah.
played to be over the top, somewhat satirical, but not nowhere near the backlash it should have gotten. I mean,
Yeah.
I dig the cover art too. Like,
I
like that painted cover. I like the whole sacrilege of it all. I mean, there's a whole subplot in the film which is really interesting. But yeah, it's The Little Hours. It's one of the more mainstream films that have been released through the partner labels or even through Vinegar Syndrome in general, I feel.
I think that
In terms of having mainstream actors and actresses, like people know who Aubrey Plaza is and Alison Brie. Even, you know, Dave Franco is in the film as well.
Yeah.
I felt like it was way more well known.
Well, you know, Gunpowder and Sky is known for this. You know, they've put out more, like Her Smell is a more recent film.
Yes,
they did that. I think Tragedy Girls is also another more recent. Prospect is another one. And the thing is if I remember correctly, I think Gunpowder and Sky might have even produced The Little Hours. They might have been involved in the actual producing of the movie. So that's why this is definitely coming out through them.
I would have to check. I would have to honestly look that up.
Yeah.
That's very fascinating. So that would make a lot of sense why this is getting a Blu-ray release. I don't know. Let me check to see if it's gotten a Blu-ray release since it's come out. I'm assuming it has.
Let's see. Little Hours. When it comes
Yes, it did.
Yeah, they produced it.
In 2017, it got released by, there's this little company, Steven, called Gunpowder and Sky.
Bam.
I don't know if you've heard of them.
Yep.
So
there you go.
There it is. We're connecting the dots. The dots.
So it makes sense that they put
released
this
it back
out.
then. They're re-releasing it now.
Yep.
Yep.
So awesome. So yeah, that it's, you know, seems to fall in line with their brand.
Yeah, that falls in line with them. And a couple of these other releases, I didn't get a chance to see the more modern ones, like Inspector Ike and King Car. Both films I really wanted to see. Couldn't find them streaming anywhere.
Yeah.
Not a sound of, not a trace of them.
Yeah.
Yet again, it just goes to show physical media does still have its benefits when it comes to watching movies for the first time and in the only place to watch them.
Yeah.
I noticed that with a lot of releases this week, even when it came to Kino, especially when it came to these releases, a lot of them are tough to find streaming anywhere. And, you know, it was frustrating to watch because I wanted to watch a lot of them. But luckily I got these releases. But a couple of these other films, so Passing Strangers and Forbidden Letters, this is a two-film, like I said, by Arthur J. Bresson Jr. These are queer adult films.
Yeah.
So that's why these are probably tougher to find in general, tougher to even find on Letterboxd. And then Videophobia sounds fascinating. Did you read the premise for Videophobia?
I did not.
Yeah. It's obviously Connie is the sublabel that is named after Ozu.
Yeah.
Ozu and is probably trying to be Ozu-esque. Yeah, this is a really it deals with like obsessive self-image and stuff like that. It's really, really good. Like, it sounds really good. I'm gonna read the actual premise of it as soon as I can find it, because I think it's another one of those modern films. I think it came out in 2019. It came out
here.
so.
You got
A film looks at the modern implications of technology and the internet and video in particular. When a person's personal video recording leaks online and becomes widely available without authorization, the person experiences a severe phobia with many repercussions. The video's dissemination sends the person into hiding and agoraphobia. And now that is something fascinating because the recording is of an intimate sexual encounter.
Yeah.
Which we see these type of things happen all the time.
Oh, yeah.
And the effects of that have been extremely serious in terms of people committing suicide because of it.
Oh, yeah.
And people's lives being traumatically affected by it. So this film is definitely playing into that whole idea. So that's why I think it was apropos to kind of want to see, but obviously I couldn't find it until now. So that's one that's on my radar.
Okay.
But that seems to be it, Steve, unless you got anything else to add when it comes to all of these partner labels.
No, it's once again, I'm always excited for partner label releases because you just never, there's so many possibilities, and they typically always, have something interesting here for everybody. So yeah, I mean, I'm excited. There's a few of these that I plan to pick up. Of course, Buster Keaton. I already pre-ordered the Buster Keaton Rides Again. I'm going to be getting the Coca-Cola Kid. And as you said, the Twilight Years of Doris Wishman, there's part of me that just really wants to get that. Because there's just the two that, the one I watched was really fun. You're selling me on the other one, Deadly Weapons.
Nice.
And yeah, I like having stuff like this in my collection. Having a variety and that's what I go for in my library, as I call it, is to have just such a variety of whatever you want. I have to keep my daughter away from a movie like this. I can't have her watching some Doris Wishman when she's born, but maybe get around to it one day. I'll show my daughter Doris Wishman when she's 18. Why not? But that's it for this show.
That's it. That's what a way to end.
Yeah, I know.
But Steven, do your usual outro so we can get out of here.
Okay, let's do this. Where can you be found, Andrew?
You can find me on Twitter at Capzilla06, as well as our YouTube channel, Chasing Labels.
And you can find me on Facebook, Stephen Billings. You can find me also at other Chasing Label pages, whether it be our Twitter, Instagram. You can also go to our Facebook group and join us and talk movies, and also be involved in our other show, The Unwatched Pile, which we'll be having its second episode next weekend on Saturday. We'll be doing a live stream in there, so come in and interact with us. Join the group. We'll be talking about 4 more movies, 2 from me, 2 from Andrew. I'll be talking about Memories of Murder and also the Roman Polanski film, The Tenant. And then what were your 2 films, Andrew?
I'm talking about Once Upon a Time in America, the Sergio Leone film, and I wish I could remember the other one.
Oh, God.
You caught me off guard, Stephen.
I know, I got him.
You got him. Steven, do you remember? Because that would be sweet.
I'm focused on my movies.
Oh, I'm sorry, Steven. I didn't know we were
focus on your
like
movies
that.
too.
I didn't know we were like that. Oh, I'm watching Age of Innocence.
Age of Innocence, yes, Martin Scorsese. Yes. So yeah, we gotta obviously get prepared for that for next weekend. But I already watched Memories of Murder. I ain't gonna spoil any of that, but I already did watch that. So.
Nice. Nice. You didn't even tell me. So
well, I'm trying to keep it a secret for the show. But I don't want to talk about it to the show. But okay, so yeah, go over to the Facebook group. Please join that. Get involved. You can find the audio for the podcast on Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, and other places. Thanks again for listening. And hey, keep on watching them movies.
I know I will.